Hey, William Gilmore here for the ScreenwritersJourney.com. It is day 215, and I've got just less than 3 weeks to go to the Nashville Writers Conference. And I am knee-deep in the rewrites of my action screenplay come-ups. And it's something that I sort of set aside for a little bit after receiving my coverage notes from the screenplay readers. And sort of had to let those sort of assimilate and percolate and all those things into my brain. I spent so much time on that script that the idea of trying to do restructuring it wasn't. I couldn't see how it would happen. It was just a little too much for me at that moment. So I moved on to other things, including two horror films, two horror scripts, since they're not films yet. The Calling and The Devil's Tramping Ground. Because I thought they were in decent shape, that I could start to maybe sort of polish those and get those ready for some marketing. And I decided to go to the Nashville Writers Conference. And this would be a great opportunity to take one of these horror screenplays and, of course, come-ups, because I think it's just about ready to really get out there and start being marketed. So that meant I had to get on the stick and look at these notes and address them. And have I mentioned on this blog how much I hate rewriting? I really hate it. It's headache-inducing as you try to figure out how to make these simple changes happen, how to incorporate them into the written page. It sounds so simple when you read the notes, and then you start to try to apply those, and everything just sort of falls apart. Screenplay readers recommended that I get the script down to 100, 105 pages. It was 114, I think it was. And some of these changes, shifting things around, it was obvious that I was going to have to lose something. And it was really complicated. Do I lose this scene? Do I lose that scene? This is a great turning point at the midpoint. This works really well as a setup to the midpoint. But I got to get this stuff happening earlier in the second act, because the first half of the second act is where it sort of falls apart. It really slowed down. My characters weren't active enough. They became very passive and sort of sat back and waited for things to happen to them instead of being aggressive. So it was trying to figure all that stuff out and figure out a plan through that. Weaving through it all and making it all happen is proven to be more difficult than I was hoping. One of the big changes is I lost the scene at the midpoint that sort of sets up our bad guys taking on their mission that sort of spirals us into the second half of the movie. And that was the scene in the bedroom at Raydell's house, where Sheriff Hiram shows up with his henchmen, and they threaten Raydell and his family, and he ends up killing one of his own henchmen who's been skimming funds off him, and just telling you that it sounds convoluted. And I guess maybe it was. That was another note, that I didn't need this whole henchman, bad guy, skimming storyline. I kind of got in the way. So I took that scene out, and without having that death scene in there, for the henchman, I didn't even need to have the henchman in the earlier scene, so he disappeared from those. And then I had to figure out a way to drive Raydell earlier, since this was his motivating thing to start hunting down Grady and Shep, which is seen at the midpoint. Which, in thinking about it, that is just too late. That's 25 minutes too late. So it needed to happen a lot earlier. And I was trying to figure out, how can I make that happen? And another note the screenplay readers had was that the reveal that the sheriff is the mysterious Hiram, he is the drug supplier, was a little too flat. It didn't quite have the twist punch that it could have. And it also takes place over a cell phone conversation. Cell phone conversations aren't exactly action-heavy. Yes, it was driving the story forward, but not in the best way possible. So I decided to leave the sheriff identity unknown in the crime scene investigation, so that it appears that he's just worried about his dead officers. And then we cut to the bonfire scene where Raydell is trying to get rid of the bodies, and Hiram, or the sheriff, unexpectedly shows up and surprises Raydell and Ramon, freaks them out. So that's our reveal that Hiram is the sheriff and is the drug supplier. So that actually seems to work a lot better. It's also a direct confrontation with Raydell. He threatens him there. He holds him over the fire pit, threatening to drop him in the fire with all the bodies. You know, there's a lot of physical confrontation, which is a lot more exciting than, Raydell, you need to go do this for me or I'm going to come after you. Cell phone conversations just aren't very exciting. Another good thing that happened out of that is that the sheriff kills Ramon, or actually he has one of his henchmen do it in front of Raydell as a warning to Raydell. It's similar to what happened in the bedroom scene. It was meant to be a warning to Raydell, but we get that warning a lot earlier now, and that kicks off our second act as opposed to the midpoint. Raydell knows he's got to get things going now. I've also cut the time down from 48 hours to 24 hours. He's got to recover the lost goods. So ups the ante a little bit there. It also takes the onus off of Raydell, who in the original version killed Ramon, because Hiram told him to. Even with Hiram telling him, the reaction from the readers was like, wow, it doesn't make Raydell very sympathetic. We don't really like him because he killed an old man. Even if he was told to do it, he could have said, run, leave town, do something. So having the sheriff do it helps the audience still relate to Raydell and like him more. So those are all good, great, positive things that have come from those notes, and things are progressing forward. The problem with making all these adjustments is that there's all these little ripples that happen throughout the script. When you lose a character, when you move a scene, this scene acted as a buffer between these two scenes. Now those two scenes are together. Do I need to write a new scene to buffer them, or do I need to combine them somehow? Do I have to lose one? There's all these little ripple effects that happen all the way through the piece, and it's a pain in the you-know-where. So, yeah, I'm not happy doing it, but the progress seems to be there. It seems to be good changes, so I'm sort of happy to be doing it. It's feeling better. I'm not quite sure how all these things are going to work out as I make my way through it. Can I keep it all together and track through it? The way I'm doing it basically is I work in Movie Magic Screenwriter. So there's a note function where you can insert notes throughout the script. And, it may be insert this scene here, or something needs to be inserted here. Need to create something new here, lose this scene. And I sort of outline through the script that way, and then I just work my way through those notes. So the changes are sort of outlined already throughout the entire piece. So hopefully as I get to them, it's still making sense and I can keep going forward. If I reach a point and I go, wow, this really isn't working the way I thought it was, then I need to go back and make some things. I'm about halfway through the changes at this point. The second half of the script should be a little quicker than this first half, because once everything is established, the other things should fall into place. And a lot of the late action stuff will stay pretty much the same, just a little cleanups, to take care of any small ripples that may have happened. So, feeling pretty good about it. And that's what I'll be taking to the Nashville Writers Conference. And like I said, just under 3 weeks. So I should have the script done by the end of this next coming week. And back onto the calling and polishing that up. So I should be in really good shape to go to the conference. So anyway, I hope your own writing is coming on. Please let me know how that's happening. If you're going to be at the Nashville Writers Conference, please let me know so that maybe we can hook up and trade horror stories about the industry. Until next time, I'm William Gilmore for the ScreenwritersJourney.com telling you, keep writing! Does it sound like WWE?